we were at a hotel last year when you were inaugurated as president of ISAN. It was well received with industry stakeholders, and you listed your programs, your projects. 1 year after, Madam, could you go into that list? What award have you been able to do for the institute?
Thank you very much, the institution, for that. Starting with the last question. So we are very grateful to God for the modest achievements we've been able to post in the last 1 year. And let me start first by appreciating the team, because it's not a one-man show, and it takes a lot of teamwork to see significant progress as we have seen in the last 1 year. And of course, the principal office holders, VP, registrar. As at this time yesterday, I think we're still on transit from Uyo, and here they are again. We're all here to be in this program. Of course, the Governing Council of the Institute, I would love to give a special appreciation to the Governing Council for also continuing to drive the policy framework for the Institute as a whole. And of course, our very, very important stakeholders, that are members. With the support of all our members, we have been able to come this far. So I would just say that remarkable progress have been recorded, and I will list just a few within a short time that I have. And again, maybe like the institution has done, I will also start with the last, right? So I don't know, I'm sure some of you were with us sometime last week, Friday, when we had the turning of the sword ceremony to kick off the commencement of our new National Secretariat project. You would recall that that was very topmost on my list of my manifesto, and to the glory of God, we're able to kick off with that symbolic stone laying for the foundation of the building. And we're very grateful about that because where we are right now was constructed in 1992, when we're still an affiliate member of the UK ICSA, now CGI UK. And we know that within the committee of other professional bodies in Nigeria, before you count up to 5, you would put ICSAN on that list. And we believe that ICSAN definitely has a lot to benefit by having a modern and more befitting National Secretariat. And that plan, that vision has been there for a while. It has been a bit elusive because we had, some setbacks here and there, but we are grateful to God that we've taken the bold step to commence as soon as possible. So that's that. So I started with the last, the most recent that we posted, which was just last week, Friday. And of course, we also have recorded a significant milestone of incursion into the Northern Nigerian space with the ICSAN brand. That was a major milestone for us as an institute. The Kaduna State chapter was birthed, and the chapter is up and running. The chapter has actually begun to make a lot of penetration within the state civil service. And we believe that the Kaduna State chapter would also be the first of the many that will still come of chapters that we would record in the Northern Nigeria. Another milestone that gives us a lot of excitement as an institute is the Memorandum of Understanding between ICSAN and NILS in collaboration with University of Benin for the program Master in Governance. Currently, we're putting finishing touches to the implementation plan as the program is scheduled to start come next session, and that will be September. So in our quest to continue to propagate quality education and knowledge on governance matters in Nigeria, this collaboration has also come into play, and we're really delighted about that as an institute. Publication of our textbook on governance is also another key one. I think this happened sometime in September 2023. And with that publication, the full name of the text is Governance, Private and Not-for-Profit, Public, Private and Not-for-Profit Organizations. So you can see that with that text, we now have a complete ensemble of our textbooks for all the 4 courses in the final stage of our professional examination. As you know, we also have critical stakeholders that we partner with on the subject of corporate governance. And the Corporate Affairs Commission is a major one on that list in terms of regulators. ICSAN happens to be one of the professional bodies that has been authorized by law to certify for people who want to play within the insolvency space. And we have submitted a curriculum to the Corporate Affairs Commission for its approval to enable us commence professional examination and certification for those who would want to play within that space. And of course, we believe that once we have that approval, we'd also hit the ground running. I've spoken about the new ICSAN Secretariat. We've had strategic engagements and official visitations. And of course, you know, when we're talking about promoting the very essence of the principles of good governance across the public sector, the private sector, the not-for-profit organizations, it's also important that we engage with the key NDAs within the public sector. As we know, good governance is not limited to just the corporate setting alone, not just the private, organized private sector alone, but we want to also continue to see that improved corporate governance practices within the public sector. And on that note, we've gone around, you know, paying strategic courtesy visits to the head of service of Oyo State, the Cardinal State Governor, the head of service of Cardinal State, Registrar General, Corporate Affairs Commission, the chairman and the executive commissioner of Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, managing director of Bank of Industry, Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy, which was done just about last week in Abuja to do some runs of those engagements. And of course, the DG of PENCOM, DG of NILS, you know, who are, of course, our partners on the upcoming Master in Governance. So these visits and engagements have actually afforded us the opportunity to further advocate the role of ICSAN in governance, in the governance space, and our contribution to numerous policy issues, and as a strong influence and leading voice on corporate governance matters. Of course, we've had engagement with the Financial Reporting Council as well. We all know the importance of what role the Financial Reporting Council plays in the corporate governance space in Nigeria. We've had very rewarding conversations and partnerships. In another week or two from now, ICSAN, in partnership with the FRC and the Ministry of Finance Incorporated and NIODCC, will be hosting, co-hosting the National Corporate Governance Summit. This is the second edition. The first and maiden edition having been held sometime in 2022. So, of course, we're also going to be having a memorandum of understanding with the FRC, in view to formulating and reinstating a lot of corporate governance issues that will continue to help our economy and the business climate to improve. We've submitted different advocacy documents and position papers to relevant stakeholders. And I'm not going to bore you by listing them one after the other. We have almost 10 that we have done that touch on, very unique areas, like the business facilitation omnibus bill, the exposure drafts on sustainability reporting standards in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. They're going to have a copy of these documents. During the period also, we continue to have strategic engagement with our global partner, the Corporate Secretaries International Association. And I'm pleased to also let you know that during this 1 year, the president and chairman of Council of ICSAN was appointed as a treasurer, the global treasurer of that association. It's the global voice for corporate secretaries and governance professionals from different continents in the world. And I will not end this without also mentioning the fact that our dear VP here seated equally put ICSAN on the global map when she bagged the Corporate Secretary of the Year Award during the maiden edition of the Global Governance Awards that held in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia sometime in April. We have also rebranded the Institute's magazine to reflect, the name that we'll be transiting to very soon as we have the nod of the National Assembly. So it used to be called the Chartered Secretary and Administrator, but we have now appropriately rebranded it to the Governance Professional. And that also tells you the kind of content that you would be seeing in that magazine. You would recall also that my manifesto, key on the manifesto was the issue of our CGIM bill, the Corporate Governance Institute of Nigeria bill. Following the approval of our members during the annual general meeting of 2020-2021, we had started the process, but we all know how lengthy that process can get, particularly once it has to do with the National Assembly. But I'm also pleased to report that acceleration of that change of name has really gained momentum. And the bill has undergone the first reading, about to go through the second reading. And from there on, we're very positive that we would be having a change of name very, very soon. And also the amendment of our act, which is, which is some decades old. We believe that it's time to also do a holistic review of that act to take care of contemporary business issues and emerging issues as well. We've had several linkage agreements as well with different universities, and there are ongoing discussions with different institutions as well. We've had successful holding of all the Institute's programs. Like I mentioned while I was giving my opening remarks, yesterday we were still in Uyo about this time. I think my duty was still in Uyo. We had arrived to Lagos. So we held a annual public lecture in Uyo. And it's one of the strategic policies or policy thrusts of the Governing Council to take some of our national programs to different chapters, so that there will be that sense of inclusion, and the promotion of corporate governance can also, rotate around other states than Lagos and Abuja, because Abuja as the FCT has also hosted a few of our national programs. We successfully held the annual public lecture, and instructively, the theme had to do with catalyzing sustainable development using PPPs. That was very, very profound, and it was a wonderful conversation. For those who joined, I'm sure it must have been worth their while. So we're going to be having the communique for the annual public lecture released anytime and any moment from now. I think I'll just pause there.
All right. When I asked that question, I knew I was going to get an epistle. You know, I knew really that you've done so extensively well in the last 1 year. But let me just conclude on that question before my colleagues come in. When you came in, the economy became tighter, you know, not by your doing, the general economy, you know, and I know membership subscription could have been harder to pay and other things. So what were those challenges? Because it couldn't have been all rosy in the last 1 year. So what were those few challenges you encountered while administering the institute the last 1 year, and what lies ahead?
Thank you very much for that question. Yes, you are very correct that in the last 1 year, we've seen tighter, you know, economic trajectory, as it were. And our own institute is not insulated from what goes on in the general economy. Indeed, we've had one of the major challenges have been the issue of funding. Indeed, council had to give approval to further provide discounts to enable our members, you know, pay their subscriptions if they're able to pay within a certain period. And that was one of the strategies we adopted to, you know, encourage people to pay.
Well, what percentage discount?
Sorry?
What percentage discount?
The other 10 or 20%, yeah. So I think that helped. And you know, we also have a gigantic project ahead of us that would also require a multi-million funding, multi-billion. Indeed, it's multi-billion, you're correct. VP, you know, VP knows better because she's crunching the numbers as a chairman of a building committee that she also is. So really, we know these challenges are there, but then again, challenges are meant to be surmounted. So we'll continue to come up with our own strategies as a governing council to ensure effective management of resources available to us. You know, it will be instructive if for those of you who were also around during our annual general meeting that held on Friday last week. You would realize from the annual reports and accounts that we've actually also, which is actually an achievement that we should have mentioned as well, we've been able to turn around the deficit position that we reported last year to a positive position. So that tells you that we're being very intentional to ensure that we manage our resources in a very prudent manner and in an efficient manner, such that we'll be able to continue to weather the storm of the general economic climates.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So Gloria Amapo from the Guardian newspaper. Just like you mentioned, you saw the turning ceremony in the new national secretariat. So you mentioned the significance. So my question is, what funding options are you employing for this capital projects?
For the multi-billion. How to raise it?
I would have loved my VP to answer this question, but I will answer you first and then pause for her to also add a few things. So currently, what we're doing is self-funding. A time there was, we had a very ambitious plan to have a 15-story structure. And then we were in discussions with a foreign partner. And the discussions were going very well until at some point we realized that the capacity was not really as we thought, and the talks broke down. Let's just leave it at that, which made us to go back to the drawing board. And you would see that the prototype is a modest four-story. But the truth of the matter is that we consider what inflation is as of today, current rate of inflation, perhaps what it would have cost us to put up a 15-story as at those years ago, it will actually be almost the same. But we are not we are not unmindful of the challenges ahead regarding the funding for the building. Currently, we are leveraging the development levy from our members, but definitely we are also not averse to support from well-meaning Nigerians. In fact, let me seize this opportunity to just call out federal government, from the federal government to the state government to, well-meaning corporate entities who definitely know the importance of good corporate governance to also lend us some support as would be required, definitely financial support, and also in time, we'll be very happy and delighted to receive such support. But I'm going to pause to allow the EP to say one or two things, because I'm sure she would have some more depth to offer us on this subject matter.
Thank you, Madam President. You have articulately captured the journey of the new national secretariat building. The popular thing that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one small step. Yeah. And that is how the Institute has decided to propose its achieving that significant milestone. And so we're taking it step by step, phase by phase, because if you look at it, as the president said, when we started, we were looking at a 15-story building, but we decided to be modest and scale it to a bite size that we can achieve. And indeed, in reality, looking at the cost of that 15-story building is actually the same as that modest structure we have seen. And we've seen how costs have escalated over the last 12 months, actually. So, which is why we've started with the turning of the sword. We will go to the next step. And I join Madam President to ask, including our media partners, to support this grand effort. And we are extremely optimistic that we will achieve our desired objective of having a befitting national secretariat for the Institute. I will pause and do it.
Yeah, next. Well done, Madam President. This is with regards to the lingering issue of the minimum wage, particularly today, that it has been reported that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had called for a meeting with the leadership of the NLC and the TUC to address the issue. I'd like to know your position on the lingering issue and how best you think this matter can be solved in the interest of all parties.
Okay, issue of minimum wage. It is an issue that all parties, and when I say all parties, government, organized labor, workers, every stakeholder must find a middle ground to enable us move forward. I am aware that the meeting that is being reconvened again to discuss is either underway right now or ongoing. The advice would be for all parties to give best consideration, give consideration to the national interests, first and foremost. That's one. Second is for all parties to also be realistic with expectations. There's no gainsaying the fact that coming up with a spurious figure that might not be sustainable in the long run would not be the best for anyone. So that's why I'm saying that expectations must also be measured and be realistic. Whilst not proposing any figure, I would just like to say that essentially dialogue is still what would give us the best possible solution to get to where we're going. The issue of raising the minimum wage from the level it is right now to a humongous figure that may not, be necessarily sustainable, also has its dangers, in the long run for the economy, because at the end of the day, it will end up spiking the inflation that is already at an all-time high. And who gets to still bear the burden and suffer the brunt of that? It is still you and I, the end users, the consumers, because when the wage bill is essentially high, providers of goods and services would, pass on that cost to the consumers. And, we also want a sustainable minimum wage. We want a minimum wage that will not result into loss of jobs for people, so it must still be something that would be good enough to cater to the high cost of living right now, without necessarily leading to other social factors that were not envisaged, before arriving at whatever figure. So again, we hope that all the parties involved would be ready and willing to put national interest first, as national stability, as it were. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Nike Popola from Daily Economy. Please, Ma, I would like to talk on the persistent problem of high unemployment rate, which has remained unsolved in the country. What do you think is the best way to address this problem?
Okay, unemployment rate issue. I mean, the issue of unemployment continues to be a worrisome, trend, and which all and sundry must work together to do something about. Why do I say this? So we can't put everything on the lap of the government. There must be that public-private partnership to also assist to ameliorate this position. And how can this be achieved? There's no one cap fits all, or one jacket fits all, as it were. But there can be multifaceted ways in which government and, of course, private sector can also jump in to reduce the issue of unemployment to the barest minimum. So from the government, and I think we've said this before, and we can't stop saying it until we see significant, improvement. There is need to diversify our economy. That is something that government must continually find a way around. Okay, so beyond oil and gas sectors, we need government to do more in the area of agriculture, in the area of manufacturing, and also put in place enabling environments that will enable that sector to thrive. Once those sectors continue to thrive on an upward trajectory, it would also lead to job creation that would be sustainable in the long run. So diversifying the economy is very key, and we have always held that position at ICSAN, and it is an area that we want to continue to see improvement by government. There should also be encouragement in the area of providing requisite support for startup businesses, right? So there are a lot of Nigerians that are very talented. They have that entrepreneurial spirit. So we are looking at the MSMEs, how can the ecosystem help them, Sometimes it's not just about the funding alone. Some of them need mentorship. They even need, advice. They need guidance on how to put the right structures in place that will make their businesses sustainable. So there are some things that beyond funding, of course, funding is key and is important, like like government providing soft loans, for instance, but in other areas also, mentorship and holding them to put the right structures to make their, businesses attract, investors and thrive with a view to also employing others. That can also create employment. I've spoken about.
In that regard, you consider tax rebates for these startups?
Absolutely. Not even only for the tax, for the startups, for all businesses. Because at the end of the day, if government does not provide tax rebates here and there, it's going to end up affecting, the unemployment rate we're talking about. Because once there's too much heavy burden in the area of tax for entities, they begin to look for other ways to also cut down their costs. And the first thing, as we all know, that happens is to look at the payroll, and see how they can, what do they call it, rationalize, and all of that. So, so area of agriculture is key, and rural development. Government should provide value chain that would encourage rural infrastructure and the issue of farm to table, initiatives. Digital economy is an area that the government can also use to reduce the unemployment rates. So we're talking about the fintechs, e-commerce, other digital skills. How much of training are available to people within this space so that they can run on their own and create that economy that would also be essential to growing our economy generally. I spoke about public-private partnership. That's really key. Like I said, there must be that strong relationship between the government and the private sectors, civil society, not-for-profit organizations to create jobs and stimulate growth. So this, amongst other things. The issue of unemployment is an ongoing conversation. And like I said, it's not one solution that would solve the problem for us. So government should continue, both government and the private sector should continue to look at improvement and getting this reduced to the barest minimum. The issue of infrastructure development is also key. That's also essential. That could also create jobs and stimulate growth within the economy.
Madam, before Jake comes in, we're talking about the economy. I like to require a question on unemployment. It's not here, but on national debts or debt, national debt, which has been an issue. We knew that in 2000, during our passing, it was a serious issue. We're talking about debt was slowing our growth, debt was slowing our growth. We reduced the debt. Now we've gone back to that issue. As a financial expert, what do you think? Where are we? What should we do? Because we are paying with almost 70-80% to service our debt, and we're earning nothing. So what should we do? Where are we? I don't know what you want to talk about.
Okay, maybe Madam President will take that question when we've gone through the
All
questions.
right.
So, I will invite you to please take
All
this.
right, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Permit me to go back to what you earlier mentioned. What you have done so far, your engagement with some entities. You mentioned Corporate Affairs Commission, you mentioned Fencom, you mentioned Bank of Industry and others. From what I did so far, I think the engagement you're having with them is on capacity building and fostering corporate governance and administration. So is there anything, the reason behind this engagement with government agencies?
Okay, so in addition to what you have mentioned, capacity building is key. Because when you enhance capacity of, particularly the drivers of those MDAs, you're going to be helping in no small measure to permeate the principles of good corporate governance. And what are we talking about? The FRC recently exposed the draft code on the public sector, right? So that tells us something, that we know everyone is very aware of the need for the public sector to equally be on the train of good corporate governance. So yes, that is part of the reasons why we're making this calls. And we also want to ensure that we're not limiting the scope of our engagement to the private sector alone. Because oftentimes when people hear corporate governance, there's a perception, right, that, oh, this is only for the private sector. But you can see what the FRC is also trying to do. We have the NCCG of 2018, right? Now they're coming up with the code for the public sector and also for the not-for-profit organizations. That's going to be the three tripod on which a good, corporate governance compliant environment would sit on. So yes, I will continue to have this engagement. We believe that we can't even do it enough. We can only continue to expand our scope.
Okay. As any of them, they want to mention engaged exam for training and all the rest?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had costs to train for the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, when they had the capacity building for members of the Nigerian Judicial Council. And I think Oyo is also in the works, or Oyo State Civil Service.
And for the Kaduna State Civil Service.
Yes, and the Kaduna State Civil Service. So all these visits have started yielding noticeable results, and we're really, really happy about that. And by the way, each place we go, each of these engagements we have, the reception to good governance practices is undeniable. So I think it sort of helps them to put things in perspective when we then visit and have that, one-on-one engagement with them. So yes.
Thank you.
How can public administration be put upon in Nigeria?
Okay.
Cycle civil servant.
I'm here.
You see, I will start again from the last discussion, and that is the issue of good corporate governance. Because for every other thing I say, the good corporate governance is still the foundation on which those other things will be built. And of course, we know the principles of sound corporate governance, issues of accountability, responsibility, disclosure, due process. Because transparency, apparently, if these things are not in place, efforts would likely be in futility for every other thing, right? So I would say that sound principles of corporate governance will be, topmost, right? And then institutional reforms. We need to have stronger institutions in Nigeria. I was very pleased. When I came in, I said, I was just reading a breaking news. There's a breaking news right now, yes, about the Supreme Court judgment asking the federal government to pay directly to the local government. And a colleague of mine said, this is going to be revolutionary because it will definitely lead to, rapid development at the grassroots level. So when we have strong institutions as a nation, there is no stopping us. So I believe that institutionalizing, good reforms as well, making merit-based appointments, merit-based promotions, even within, the structure of our civil service is very, very key. Putting the right pegs in the right holes will help us to go far as a nation. So coming back to that breaking news I spoke about, that's another key, issue. That is decentralization and empowering local governance. And I think that is what the Supreme Court wants to achieve with this judgment, and we'll see how far that could also take us. Of course, we also need government to, we all know what corruption can do to any system, and we all know what corruption has done to our system as a nation all this while. So we encourage government to continue to strengthen, anti-corruption agencies and anti-corruption laws, implement effective whistleblower protection policies that would also make people to give anonymous reporting where things are not being done properly. I think the issue of the issue of improvement of the public administration in Nigeria is something that requires sustained efforts. Again, it's not a one-off, conversation or one-off action, and there's no one single solution to it. So yeah, we must also ensure that there are constitutional provisions and laws strengthening corporate governance principles as well. That's also very, very key and essential. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me pause for now.
Okay, we have just one more question, Madam President, from Mr. Shegun.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Talking about ICSAN, how will you describe ICSAN's roles over the years and the contribution of ICSAN to Nigeria's economy?
Thank you very much for that question. And that's one of the best questions that I've had today.
That's a
question that would enable us to brag our brag, right? Because of the kind of input and impact we believe that we have made within the socioeconomic environment in Nigeria. So as we know, ICSAN is a leading institution on corporate governance, on company secretaryship, and also public administration. And the education we offer our members is top-notch and world-class, if not one of the topmost in the world as far as governance practices are concerned. So ICSAN continues to churn out members who have the expertise, who have the professionalism, who have been thoroughly baked to add tremendous value, whether they find themselves within the public sector space or the private sector space or the not-for-profit space. So in that wise, we've been able to add value by exporting, we speak about exporting ourselves, by exporting our members into different, areas within every ecosystem in Nigeria. And of course, the value we create as ICSAN members is usually evident wherever you find our members. Our members also occupy, senior level positions where they are, and they most and oftentimes also contribute to, policies and strategic, decisions in those spaces. And that is where that robust training that they've received from ICSAN, that is when it shows forth, and it's very evident for all to see. So we're really proud of that certification. And of course, I've mentioned the Corporate Secretaries International Association here today. That's also a global affiliation that makes networking with other professionals, like-minded professionals available. That's a platform that is also available to our members, to network and create value with other professionals around the world, around the globe. So yeah, the guidance materials that we also offer is very key, so we like I reeled out some of the position papers that we've provided within even just a year. So you can imagine we are 58 years old now as an institute. So you can imagine the gamut of guidance materials and position papers we've been able to, provide to help shape policies and also direct, give our inputs on issues around corporate governance. And that has indeed helped to continue to grow the Nigerian economy. I will continue to do that.
Thank you.
Just to provide a little addition to that, we've also been advocacy partners. I mean, when you asked the question earlier about our relationship and then the purpose of our visit to the MDAs, in addition to capacity building and all of that, a lot of them, see a worthy partner in us, in being advocacy partners, especially in areas of, policy formulation, like Madam President, said. Just also chip that up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, HC, for that contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a pause now, and I will hand back over to the registrar. I understand there are some council members that he would like to introduce and welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Madam President, esteemed members of the council here present, as we started the Parley, a lot of people joined. Some people even joined before we started, and there were some council members I want to recognize. Mr. Babatunde Kweliwura, FCIS, Mr. Andy Amos, FCIS, Mrs. Benedicta Shadari, FCIS, Mr. Adele Togunde, FCIS, Alhaji Habibu Tijani, FCIS, Ms. Ronke Opajobi, FCIS, and Mrs. Marilyn Eze, FCIS. Going through the achievements you have recorded in your tenure, Madam President, you can be adjudged to have done creditably well. And therefore, for the online viewers that are not members of ICSAN, those that are just hearing about ICSAN, I think it's an opportunity for you to join us at ICSAN so as to spread the gospel of corporate governance around the whole country, so we can all shape this country the way it's supposed to be. Thank you so much, Madam President. So, I omitted someone's name. Our past president, Mr. Bode Ayeku, FCIS, is also on.
Okay, we welcome you, sir. Is it there?
Thank you very much, Mr. Registrar, for that selling of your market. This is part of the ways we are going to raise our funds for building our ICSAN house by propagating the good news of ICSAN. I don't know if Madam VP wants to say one or two words before we officially close the Parley session. Madam.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to Madam President and to all of us. The spirit of ICSAN is that we're greater together, and that as we work together as our institute across the footprint of all our chapters, and Madam President ended with the word exports. In fact, we have exported some of our professionals outside the shores of Nigeria, and they continue to do the great work. As we have gone around the footprints of our institutes across the country, we have encountered very professional individuals, both in the private sector, in the public sector, and also in the not-for-profit and civil society. So ICSAN permeates, permeates well across the different aspects of governance and administration. And we believe that if we continue to work together purposefully, that indeed we will, as the words of our national anthem say, we will leave to our children a banner without stain. And so I want to once again thank you, press partners, for being here, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Madam VP. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished gentlemen of the press and partners of ICSAN, this brings us to the end of our press Parley for this quarter. I would hand over to Madam VP again to give us the vote of thanks as we officially wrap up. Madam.
Thank you very much. And once again, let me thank everyone. I believe our media partners really deserve an applause.
If you let us applaud you, we are the ones that we are the ones applauding you.
We know what it means to go out in Lagos on a rainy day.
Honestly.
And for you to have done that and be here so early, we really deserve our commendation, especially at a time where it's not also difficult to get around with construction going on in different places in the States, but all signs of progress. for the state and indeed the nation. So thank you very much. And on behalf of the Governing Council of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN, led by our unique president, Mrs. Fumi Ikunda, your FCI. You know, how time flies. Barely a year ago, we were in this room for the first press parley under her leadership. And here we are once again, several months, a year later. So congratulations, Madam President. And by extension to members of the Governing Council, it is indeed a celebratory period because so much has been made and we have done it together. And Madam President referred to that over and over, that it takes a village to achieve all that we have done, and the ICSAN community has worked together. And so please let me acknowledge immediate past President Omoba Bengatai Wowokalade, and also past President Bode Ayeku. Let me also acknowledge some members of council who have joined. Some were online even before we started. Mr. Babatunde Pelewura, FCIS, veteran elder, as I call him, Dele Tugunde, FCIS, Mr. Tonio Koma, FCIS, Mrs. Marilyn Eze, FCIS, Mrs. Nkechi Oyenso, who's a council member, and who every time I do the vote of thanks, she's wearing several caps. So, so well done to you, Madam. She also is the chair of the Publicity and Advocacy Committee that has put this together. So well done to you and all members of your committee. Some present, Yvette is here, and there are some present online. I saw Bumi online. So kudos to you and all members of the committee. Mr. Andy Amos, FCIS, who hosted us. We just left him in New York and we're back, and he has joined online. So well done. Ronke Opajobi, FCIS, Benedicta Shadari, FCIS, Alaji Abibu Tijani, FCIS, who's the chairman of Kaduna State chapter. And I've also seen some state chapter chairmen. I've seen Oyo State, Alaja is online. And also past presidents of our various chapters. That really shows the community spirit that we seek to continue to propagate. It would not be complete without acknowledging our honorary treasurer who is here with us. I mean, we all came, the president came in the morning, and Mrs. Onyenso and I came in with Julie, who's very busy here again today in the evening. So well done to you. And to all members of the Secretariat, you have done so well. You do all the heavy lifting because without that hard work, all these things wouldn't have been accomplished. I also acknowledge some of the past chairmen of chapters who are there. I've seen Mr. Joshua Adeoye, FCIS, and Mrs. Celine Okoroma Vincent. She was also with us in Oyo, and she's also joined all the way from River State chapter, and continuing to spread the gospel and objective, and that is diligence and commitment, which are virtues that we espouse at ICSAN. And to you, our media partners, once again, I want to especially thank you. Without you, this would not have been possible. You're the one who, even when in between our activities, you tell our stories. And we thank you for helping us tell that story even more articulately and giving that visibility. I believe working together with all of you fine ladies and gentlemen and very experienced professionals in your field, that we will continue to make our nation better. To friends of ICSAN,
To all our members across our footprint, we really thank you for joining. But I will not end without inviting you to join us at our other activities. And we have a major calendar activity for the year, which is our 2024 annual conference, which will take place on the 12th and 13th of September this year. It will take place in Lagos. So we urge you, our flyers will soon go out. We urge you to make it 2 days with us, the 12th and the 13th of September 2024. We also ask you to join us for our chapter activities. All our chapters have activities lined up from time to time. If you're in Lagos, please join us. And I encourage our media partners to join the Institute as members. This is an opportunity right in the trenches, because we can't do it alone. And we don't want to do it at arm's length. We want you to be part and parcel of this movement to improve governance wherever you find yourself. And so thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for taking your time. It's already noon. We started in the morning. And for more information, please don't hesitate to check our website. You can also engage the registrar for a lot of information, including position papers and news and information, and any information you want. I want to really say that this journey will not end today. It will continue into the future, and we continue to consider the media as strategic partners. God bless our institute. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just add,
Yes, ma'am.
so Madam VP's structure for our governance. And this vote of thanks will not be complete for this 1 year milestone if we don't acknowledge all our committees, all the chairmen, the vice chairman, all the members of all the committees. We have about 17 committees in all who are, working tirelessly around the clock to ensure that all our programs and activities indeed come out top-notch. In fact, one of the charges we gave ourselves is that all our programs will be self-financing, and that is already happening with most of our programs. A lot of hard work going into that on the part of the chairman, their vice chair, and the members of those committees. So I'd like to just add that to the vote of thanks that Madam Vice President has given. And the same goes to the leadership and the entire membership of all our sectoral groups. We really appreciate what they're all doing. Aviation, sectoral group, digital economy, banking, and other financial institutions. We have quite a number of them. Energy, yes, aviation, yes. So thank you for all you do, for the love of this great institute of ours. Your efforts are appreciated. And on behalf of the Governing Council, we say thank you very much for your service to the Institute and for lending your expertise and time, resources, energy to ensuring that all our programs continue to come out very well and very successful.
Thank you very much, Madam President, the first female president and chairman of council of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, Mrs. Fumi Ekundayo, FCIS. Thank you very much, the vice president, Mrs. Uto Pana, FCIS, and everybody else giving the vote of thanks now. We started with the national anthem and we will end with the national anthem. Very right.
Raises the flag of the new nation.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand.
Amen.